Testing, testing, one, two, three. Hello, hello. This is James of Twin Peaks Coffee Time today on the 25th of July, 2023. And tonight I'm here for the reason, a very special reason, of examining and pulling apart this latest installment in the ongoing Exorcist franchise. I don't see any point in calling it any other thing at this point. Although I think I would hold out higher hopes for this new installment than the previous Exorcist films that came out nearly 20 years ago now. The Exorcist Exorcist, the beginning, and the one that was not really released initially, but then they released a unfinished sort of cut of the Paul Schrader original one that was remade as the beginning, called Exorcist Dominion, which was very much like a Western more than anything, almost. The Exorcist, the beginning, tried to basically just use a lot of scenes and shots, like, the Pazuzu amulet and where it came from in Africa or Iraq. I mean, this was set in Africa, though, and it was fairly incoherent, really. The Exorcist beginning and Dominion, really. I don't quite know what the thinking was behind them, other than just let's go back in time and examine the roots of the Exorcist story in the journeys of Father Merrin, which, I think they should have been possibly a little bit warned against doing that, because of the fact that there was the Exorcist 2 Heretic, as I call it. I can't pronounce heretic. I'm not exactly sure how it is. If anyone can help me in the chat with that, the correct pronunciation of heretic. Hello, Monkey Island, as well. Thank you for watching. It's this kind of time when somebody might see that the show's on, but if you can tell anyone else to watch it, that would be helpful. But, if I just get one person watching, for me, that's not exactly exciting necessarily too much, but it's better than nothing, and I always appreciate anyone watching. So yeah, I think people who've never watched Coffee Time basically would know that there was a series of Exorcist films after the first one, quite spaced out in terms of years between each one, and the second one was regarded as a pretty widely throughout the media and critics as a sort of a major turkey, like a flop, because of it being just so far removed from the original film in its general approach from John Borman. And compared to, say, William Friedkin, then there's very much a huge gap in between those two films. I think when I was fairly young, I saw The Exorcist 2, and on video. I probably bought the video, and it opened with the extended opening where you see Father Lamont, I think it is, played by Richard Burton, going up these steps somewhere in South America, I believe. And it's a little bit extended. There were two, very, very, very slightly varied cuts of the film for whatever reason, whether they were trying to improve it or what, I have no idea. But I think it's better with the shot of the steps at the start, because it brings to mind, of course, the steps in Georgetown that were so prominent in the first film. But at the same time, I think any sequel to an Exorcist film shouldn't rely on basically just reusing locations or reusing symbolism or ideas from the first film, really. Would you consider yourself a follower of Pazuzu? I would say to that, yes, because today I went into the local area in Derby and went into the centre of the town, and I went through a number of different eating establishments, and I could have gone in any one of them. I did actually go in some of them, but I just knew it would take ages to get served. So I thought, okay, carry on to the next place. Don't make a fuss about it. Don't start taking doors off of hinges and, kicking doors down just to get out of the place because you've not been served in 1 second. And I went outside. This is just before I went actually in Revolution, where I also exited quite fast. I did that also in the Weatherspoons and also, in Nando's initially, because I went in Nando's and she said, you've got to do it all on your phone. And I just thought, what is it? What is the world coming to if I can't even just order some food quick, like without having to start getting my phone out and going through long menus where I've got to scroll through all these different options of different foods and everything, and so I didn't, I tried not to sort of, get too aerated or anything, and I just left. And that was with the power of Pazuzu, really. I walked down Sadlergate, which is an old street. No, I didn't actually walk down there. I walked up around the cathedral, then walked back around, and then went sort of past Sadlergate and back down to where Revolution was. And this drain there was very blocked on the road, like a just normal drain on the street. And these people came past me, like a guy and a female, and they sort of started peering down it for some unknown reason, whilst I was stood at the side thinking, where am I going to go for some food now? And do I really want to go somewhere where it's just a burger and chips and this kind of stuff, or chicken and chips and, Nando's style food, basically. And I said I actually blocked the drain there on the road. I mean, when I look back on it, it's quite funny, but I don't know. They couldn't understand. I don't think they understood what I was talking about. It was just because they showed interest in the drain and the fact that it was blocked. And this is something that my dad has had a long time. Pretty much, I would describe it as a definitely an obsession, an OCD type of thing for sure. And I'm not making fun of any of that kind of thing at all. I mean, some OCD for me would probably be a good thing. But, there've been times in the past where my dad was running out into the street and he was like shouting at these Severn Trent water people about these properties are in danger of imminent flooding. Those are the actual words. And I don't know if they could hear him, but he was getting really tense about the situation. So anyway, I said to these people, oh, I created that blockage there. And then he said, really? And I said, yes, it was with pea soup. And I knew that he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Because I've had this trailer on my mind, I knew it was coming out today on, YouTube, etc. And so he said, oh, right, okay, or whatever. And I said, I just went Pazuzu like this. It's a demon that made me do it, Pazuzu. And he went, oh, all right, like this. And I knew he didn't know what I was talking about. So, and then he said, you have a great rest of your day. And I was like thinking, oh no, he thinks that I'm like a crazy person now or something. But to be honest, I don't really think that anything I did was particularly crazy. It's it's more just a reference, and he didn't get it, So um, it just goes to show, I suppose, that not everybody's interested in The Exorcist or Pazuzu. So I didn't hurt anybody. I didn't do anything to anybody or do anything wrong. So they just didn't get the reference. So they're the fail sons on that one. And I was disappointed. And in the end, I carried walking along the road there, sort of back into the centre of Derby, and I noticed that before that there's a place which sells Greek food. So I went in there, and it was a really, really good place to go. I had pork in a pita bread with some salad and onions, and mainly, and yeah, it was just really nice. Just a handful of chips, so not overdosing on that kind of thing. So really nice, and I'll definitely go there again. Absolutely. I'll give out the name for it on another thing so that I can promote it to the many people on here who might be in the locality. I don't think that Repossessed is an actual Exorcist film, Monkey Island, to be fair. So that's, you are taking the piss a bit, really. And this is a serious show, and I would hope that you would understand that it's a serious show. So we're going to look at the Exorcist beginning trailer now. Keeping in mind, whilst you watch it, would it have been better soundtracked by the music that Mike Oldfield did for that he did for Tubular Bells 3, which came out in about end of the 90s, I think. Because I saw some kind of a live show of it, which was quite a big concert on Horse Guards Parade in London. Not sure if it was anything royal, but yeah. And he did like Tubular Bells 2. I remember that when that came out, because that was so well promoted. It was promoted a lot, and there was Top of the Pops back in those days. Mike Oldfield came on it playing Sentinel, which was which was featuring the famous music used in The Exorcist. So that was quite a success, I think, at Tubular Bells 2. By the point of it getting to Tubular Bells 3, and I don't know if there were any more installments after that, I'm not quite sure, whether it was promoted as much, probably. And it probably just was a fan thing, more for Mike Oldfield fans, which I'm sure there are plenty of. But it's interesting, how, for instance, if something's hugely successful, like the first Exorcist film, or like Tubular Bells as used in The Exorcist. But I'm not quite sure if Tubular Bells was successful before The Exorcist or not. But it's the whole story of that is pretty interesting, and how Mike Oldfield himself was going through some kind of breakdown, really, during the production of the original Tubular Bells, which fed into the music a lot. But, some of the things are like that, are very harsh to listen to, and then other parts, like the famous Tubular Bells song, are more obviously more of a melody and more pleasant to listen to, which is quite a good summation of the first Exorcist film, even, really, as well, in that it builds up this fairly pleasant enough portrayal of family life between Regan and her mother, and then obviously it descends into far more unpleasant areas. So and I think, the portrayal of sort of demonic fathers predominantly in these films led into even um, Twin Peaks Firewalk with me and other films like that. Some Lynch works to some extent. Okay, so I'll just bring up the trailer and then we can just go through it. Okay, just get this down to 720 or something. Yes. This one says it's 3 minutes 22 seconds, but I don't think the trailer's that long. It's probably just a lot of other promotional things on this particular. It's been released to loads and loads of different channels. It's got quite a lot of views already on the main channels, whether it's Bloomhouse or Universal or whoever. I can't remember which companies are. Warner Brothers, is it? I'm not sure, but yeah, I suppose it's bound to get a lot of views just from name recognition and curiosity. So anyway, I'll go through the trailer quite slowly and just give you my different takes on various things that are shown in it and how this. I think that the trailer is not going to be a particularly good summation or indication of what the film's going to be like. In fact, it's going to be more Phantom Cooper. I've not seen Barbie yet. I'm sorry. I would go and see it, but at the same time, it's not really a priority because I want to go and see Oppenheimer locally in 35mm. But if I can't see it in 35, then I'll just see it in digital. I don't think it's going to make any massive difference to my overall enjoyment of that film. But have you seen Barbie? Because as a 17-year-old girl, I can imagine that would be right up your alley. But although I think you did say that you were a goth at one point. Mike Oldfield has stated that the Tubular Bells album was directly inspired by Pazuzu. I don't know if that's him rewriting history because didn't it come out in the early 70s before The Exorcist was made? And then the popularity of that album grew as these things haven't. As those things were more, likely to in those days. You could release an album like one year and it hadn't been as a success until the next year when it suddenly just like lifted off through something. But I mean, I think it had already been something of a success before anything to do with The Exorcist, in the UK especially, but not maybe in America, for instance. I don't know. Yeah, we can have a look at the Barbie trailer if you want to. This is something we've not done for a while because obviously Voltaire was always quite keen on watching trailers and everything, and he has said he will be back on videos, but not necessarily every week. And so, I can carry on doing trailer viewings, but it's a question of what we find, interesting or which is suggested. So if the audience suggests ones, then I appreciate it. But me and the gals might make a night of it this weekend. Yeah, I mean, there was that kind of thing going on with me at the cinema. When I went to see it, I didn't go to see that. I went to see Mission Impossible. And so I went up to the instant service ticket computer things, with a screen, touch screen, and all that. And this woman was with two young girls. One was a bit more grown up, and one was quite little, like blonde little muppets, And don't know if that's the right thing to describe them as, but I didn't say muppets. The little one was being like a bit of a, probably what you'd call a Mordor, some people. Well, I wouldn't say that's the mother. And the mother said, "Oh, do you want to go to the cinema or what?" Or something like that. And I just went, I was standing right next, so I just sort of went, "Yeah, I want to go to the cinema." I told my mum that later, and she says, "You didn't say that next to her, did you?" She says, and I said, "Yeah, I did. It's no problem. I didn't cause any problems, It's if people are going to talk very audibly in your vicinity, basically right at you as if no one else is there. I mean, but my nightmare was that all of these people were going to see Dead Reckoning. This is how my incredibly irrational mind works. I mean, it's just such a lark. I genuinely thought, if some people are going to start talking throughout the entire film at the back, it's going to be just not enjoyable. Because I've had that experience occasionally, but never really in this cinema in the showcase, to be fair. And it was only 11 in the morning, so you wouldn't think that people would be behaving like that, but I suppose you just never know, really. And in the end, though, it was fine. It's just that I think that Dead Reckoning could have done with at least half an hour trimmed off it, really. And then it would have been even more impactful. But I mean, it was certainly good, I'll say that, for a straightforward kind of action caper. So when you say you're having a night of it this weekend, Phantom Cooper, possibly, how will that go? Do you mean, will it be like what Mandela Man did when he went with his two brothers and they saw the Super Mario Brothers movie and sat somewhere like having taken magic mushrooms, and then he took, like, in the car with them a glass, not a plastic beaker or anything, an actual glass of apple juice, and then he realized he had it with him when they arrived at the theater, as you call it there in Chicago, and he left the glass outside the theater. So, okay, that was really. I mean, I would have just taken it all the way into the theater at that point, to be honest. If you've got a, yeah. So, okay, let's just have a look now at the film I was talking about, The Exorcist Believers. No, we don't intend to be under the influence around children, since the theatre we're going to serves alcohol. Yeah, the one I went to did, and I used to find it a novelty that there was a bar in the theatre. I mean, it doesn't open at 11 a.m., but I remember going to it sometimes. But it's just not I don't really drink anymore, but the experience of going to the cinema, I don't really need to be going and drinking or anything. It's just not something to combine for me. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, having seen the trailer and everything, it's quite strange to think of like 7-year-old little girls going to see it. But to be honest, I suppose it could appeal to any age. That's what they've made it for, and that's why they've got a good director like Greta Gerwig there. And I think it looks like a decent film, even if it's not the sort of thing that I would immediately be running to the cinema to see. It's I would say that I would be quite disappointed if the Barbie song by Aqua is not used in quite a impactful way somehow in the film, because if it only comes on at the end credits, that is a major letdown. And I am serious. So let's anyway get into this The Exorcist Believer, and don't come in with like loads of comments just saying it looks like total shit or something like that. Please, I just want to have a kind of a constructive look at this trailer, because you know that I'm very much an Exorcist kind of fan, But even that said, there are at least half of the films are fairly bad, and I've never watched no, never watched the Exorcist series. Apparently, the second season is best, but anyway, let's have a look at this one. I've seen it before because it was leaked, but not in this good quality. So,
Good day. Hey, be home by dinner.
I love you.
well, it starts off there with this sort of high pitched ringing noise, sort of that goes in with the matches the school bell sound, and so we're already seeing a school bus in the first shot. And whenever I see a American school bus, it always makes me think, especially near the start of a film, for instance, it makes me think of Fire Walk With Me. And you've got to look with this kind of film at the sort of hints at why these two girls would end up, so-called possessed. What is the reasoning behind this? Because right from the get-go, obviously they're being portrayed as just happy and everything's fine.
Good day. Hey, be home by dinner.
I love you. Good morning, Mr. Fielding.
Morning, Catherine.
And here are your daughters.
Again, this shot of the security camera as well. And I'm not saying this just for some kind of comedy or for some kind of effect. Immediately did make me think of Fire Walk With Me, where, let's see what happened to Chet Desmond, and they look at the security cameras. So particularly the way that they're using the black and white security camera, and then she's got it up on the screen there, and it's pretty difficult to see exactly what she's looking at, but it doesn't look like the same thing they were looking at in the previous shot. So it's kind of, I think this film, they've put in some effort, at least, probably more so than David Gordon Green did with the Halloween films, because even though I think the first Halloween and the second one actually were pretty decent enough in their own way, but even the third one I sort of thought was okay. But this is like, you've got an original film which is regarded as a film classic, whereas Halloween is regarded as a classic, but it's more of a straightforward slasher film overall. Much of the camera work in these scenes is fine and it's well done and everything, but it's nothing out of the ordinary for a modern film, which I think is probably quite a good decision on their part, not to try and start retrofitting or sort of trying to make the film look like the original Exorcist when it's now 50 years later. That would be a bit just not make any sense whatsoever and seem a bit cheap. But secondly, it would it would only make sense if you'd actually set this sequel, as it were, in 1974 or something, and it's not. It's set now, so to film it in the kind of film style we've got nowadays generally, even though in this film they have used some of the lenses and style of filming as the original film, they've said, but I won't start sort of expecting it to look particularly like the original film. I think you get a few shots later on in this trailer which you can tell that they look more similar to the original film, and they may have used lenses or whatever to achieve that. But anyway, I'll stop talking now and we could just enjoy some of the imagery.
And here are your daughters, Angela and Catherine. It's about 7 hours ago, and that's the last information we have.
Catherine!
Angela?
If you can hear this, we love you. Please come home.
Yeah, so, all of the shots, for instance, of the police lights shining through the woods, and then this kind of imagery of some kind of spell catcher, I suppose, or just a charm, whatever you want to call it, that makes a a bell noise or whatever, but it's actually looks like it's a combination of different parts of animals' bones as well, which is a bit, Blair Witch really. And I think the most successful probably horror film that's been out since The Exorcist probably is The Blair Witch. So if this film somehow is almost inspired by The Blair Witch, I wouldn't mind that at all, because in this next shot as well, there's it's a, well, I don't know, it's a Christ with Joseph, or I don't know. You tell me. Somebody in the chat could probably tell me what that's a statue of. But it's one of those statues you would get in church for Advent, or maybe for other things. I don't know. Well, the girls clearly have taken them into the woods. But the thing which is more alarming, and which looks like more like something from Hereditary or whatever, is the dress-wearing Wiccan creature, which almost looks more devilish next to this model, So it's a combination of this kind of modern vision of, religion, Christian religion, or Catholic in this film, specifically, but then like ancient, more almost forbidden religions, really, I suppose. And so it's interesting to think if the girls were doing something like that. It's similar to in the original Exorcist, where Reagan gets hold of the Ouija board, and she's also making models and things like this, clay models of different things, one of which kind of resembles Pazuzu, but it's really like a bird sort of character, but it's definitely reminiscent of that. And yeah, of course, there's the hideous sort of Mary statue in the church in the original film, where it's got like large spikes coming out of the breasts and a phallus and all this in clay. So it pretty much suggests that that was Reagan who escaped the house and did that. So there are, in the original films, or in the original film, there was definitely indication that Reagan was not confined to the house. But in this one, they've got scenes that show more obviously that other things were happening, almost in a more just blatant kind of way, which is akin to a lot of films nowadays, I think. So it's universal, not Warner.
Hey, you found her? What are you and Catherine doing out there in those woods?
You were just walking and walking. That's all I remember.
Angela, can you tell your dad how long you were gone?
A few hours.
Baby, you've been gone 3 days.
Yeah, it's like the girl there, Leslie Dom's daughter, is banging against the glass, which is a bit more aggressive in a way than Reagan behaved in the original film. But it's this sort of character of you think that there's something that's happened, obviously, in the 3 days that they went missing in the woods that's caused this change in behavior,
What'd you say?
I didn't say nothing.
Thought I heard you say something.
Hey, baby. You okay?
Wherever those girls went, they brought something back with them.
The body in the blood.
Yeah, this shot of the white horse lying down. I presume it's a white horse. Must be. You can actually see it breathing,
back with them.
but that's an interesting shot for sure. I don't know what it entails or what any kind of meaning that has, but I would think that it must be something to do with their wanderings in the 3 days they went missing somehow, But of course, I mean, a lot of this to me already is bringing to mind certain things from Twin Peaks, really. Especially more like the kind of idea that people may have had for Twin Peaks to return before it actually came back, when, of course, it didn't go in the sort of, oh, another body's washed up on the shores of Twin Peaks, you know, Agent Cooper has to come back to investigate. You know, that would be the very straightforward box office winning way of presenting a new Twin Peaks, you know. And I'm sure a lot of fans would have been very happy with that. But, you know, I think there's certain elements of this which are fairly straightforward, you know, and I don't particularly object to that, because as long as it's done in a decent way, you know.
The body and the blood of Jesus Christ.
Body in the blood? Body in the blood?
Catherine,
Body in the blood. The body in the blood. The body and the blood.
Catherine,
The body and the blood. The body and the blood.
Yeah, I mean, that shot there of her saying the body and the blood and the voice effect and everything, people have criticized that for being just too over the top or something. But the way it's edited there in those little jump cuts, etc., that's not going to be the way it is in the actual film. So I think the actress who's playing that young, however old she is, 12 or 13, I mean, I think they're a little bit older than Reagan was, but I'm not sure. Not sure if Reagan was supposed to be 12, but anyway, yeah, probably. It's probably the same age as Reagan was. I thought that was an okay kind of scene for a more blatant film than this, you know.
Have you ever seen anything like this?
Mommy?
no, but there are people out there who have.
It's like when you look at this shot, I think this particular part of the trailer is quite well done. Or very well done, even, I would go so far as to say, where it suddenly just cuts halfway through the trailer into this shot, which doesn't look like anything in the rest of the film we've already been presented with, which some people may unkindly say looks like, you know, a made-for-TV movie or something like that. I don't think it's necessarily there's anything wrong with it looking like a well-made made-for-TV movie, but I think it looks decent enough for a modern film, but it looks clearly digital and everything. This shot, it almost looks like this could have been shot on film, you know, and it's Linda Blair there in a picture which was taken, a photograph taken of her for a film where she plays a teenage alcoholic. I don't know why I'm laughing about that, but I just never heard of it before. Apparently she steals somebody's truck in it or something. I can't remember it. Some actor, some well-known actor, but it sounds like a okay film, but it's quite comical in a way of them to use a photograph that was actually used in the promotion or whatever of that film, and then to use it as a picture of Reagan in this, because it doesn't, you know, in the actual. So that's an almost slightly Lynchian thing to do, you know, where you're using, like the picture of Cooper that Tammy looks at in The Return, where it's actually a screenshot of Cooper in Twin Peaks season 2, I think, or what? Season 2, probably, yeah. And, not even a photograph from the studio. So anyway, but this shot, it does look incredibly 70s, really. Partly because of the, knickknacks, the crystal and all this kind of thing. So presumably this is in Chris McNeil's window, but it's hard to tell. And so we go to... I don't know. I mean, people will find this stuff out because, we're like into this kind of just looking at the bones of a film, Chris McNeil, like the lettering over over her face, I wrote, looks like the Twin Peaks kind of lettering, you know, for the title sequence, etc. That kind of garish green, lime green color. Obviously, this is an interview which would have been taken from, I have no idea. I presume it was probably an interview made for when The Exorcist came out, but I don't know how they've managed to make it look like an actual interview with her. So, like as the character.
You have some experience with possession.
Yes, more than I'd like.
I mean, it's very much shot in the modern day, but then when it goes to Chris McNeil's house, we have the haunted house.
Exorcism is a ritual. Every culture, every religion, they all use different methods. It's going to take all of them.
Don't be scared,
We've met before.
Mother.
Yeah, I mean, this shot here is good. It's well shot, and it's a strange off-kilter sort of framing, which really does bring to mind the first film. And I'm not saying this in any critical way, but it's not really bringing to mind Exorcist 2, the heretic, you know. So that's a good thing generally. And I think, you know, this girl playing this character here, who does look similar to Reagan, is a good casting choice. Yeah, this is, I think this is probably like a flashback to the start of the film or something. Maybe they're going to start the film in a similar kind of manner to The Exorcist itself, where it goes to a more far-flung land, you know, foreign to America, I suppose. And they've smashed into some kind of telegraph pole or whatever it is. And it's the mother of the black girl, basically. Her mother died young when she was young in a car crash, I think. So, you know, the absent parent as well, similar to the original Exorcist. But I particularly, I mean, I like, overall, this looks decent enough. But I particularly like the shot of the dogs. You know, it's being filmed in the right kind of way for me. It's very, you know, odd sort of framing from they've filmed it from a distance, you know, and then it's zoomed in on the dogs beside sort of a river or something. And, you know, they just look like they're having a genuine fight. So that does bring to mind the dogs at the start in The Exorcist, where they're fighting beside the Pazuzu character, and Merrin, because obviously they see the Pazuzu and Merrin and they're like, shit's gonna get real. We've got to do some fighting now because you know, it looks good. All right, okay, do it. Although there were three dogs in the original Exorcist. One of them was just looking on and going, "Oh, I don't want any of that. Oh, get me out of here," you know. Well, these dogs look a lot blacker and more reminiscent of, dare I say it, the black dog that runs at night, that is briefly pictured for a second in Fire Walk With Me barking when Leyland and Laura are on their outing.
What did you do?
Is that Catherine's heartbeat?
They're beating in sync.
God played a trick on you.
Yeah, I mean, those end shots in it are particularly effective, I think. Obviously, this is all inspired by the so-called banned Exorcist trailer, which was never used because people complained it was too, you know, the flashing lights, subliminal, sort of flashing and obviously just the imagery and the intensity of it. They didn't probably thought it was a bit too much as a way of promoting the film, and they used a more typical trailer, which was far more just suggestive. You know, the original Exorcist trailer didn't feature shots of Reagan stabbing herself in the privates with a crucifix, you know, whereas this trailer is a little bit more, you know, just like showing a lot of stuff. But all I can think is that the way it is in the actual film is going to be the deciding factor of whether it's a good film or not, you know. I mean, all those subliminal type shots and the flashing images, which aren't that subliminal, of course, in the trailer here, you know, are obviously just a riff on that banned trailer, so-called. But I would hope that they have some subliminal kind of Pazuzu imagery in the actual film, but we'll see. Yeah, I've heard different reviews of or reactions, but mostly there's been a sort of tendency for people to go, "Oh my God, why are they making another Exorcist film? Oh, it's not David Gordon Green, you know. You look at what he did with the Halloween films," that kind of response. But then this trailer's come out, and it's especially the people who saw it before Oppenheimer, they were kind of a bit, "Oh, why are they showing that before Oppenheimer?" And a lot of them seem to be quite enthusiastic about it. So I think they're appealing more to people who just want to go and see an enjoyable film in a sort of slightly shocking sense. Like, I don't really think this film is going to be able to shock people in the way that The Exorcist did back in 1973. I mean, when I watched The Exorcist, or The Exorcist 2, for instance, or Exorcist 3, you know, to just concentrate on the original film, I didn't really sit there going, "Oh my God, I'm really scared now," particularly. I mean, maybe some of the atmosphere of it scared me, but it was more just the atmosphere that I liked. So yeah, let's get Barbie. Just see if anyone's written anything in the chat, or if everyone's been completely bored stiff by me rambling nonsensically about. Yeah, to answer your question again, Keelan, I am a follower of Pazuzu. We're going to watch Barbie next. So it's good to know that the Tubular Bells album was directly inspired by Pazuzu. He actually said the third Tubular Bells album was directly inspired by Exorcist 2. So that's... that's a good thing to know, isn't it? Scary, Monkey Island says. The bloody in the bud is more annoying and goofy than scary. Well, I think it's supposed to be, isn't it? I mean, there's going to be... it's inevitable that you go on YouTube close to when this film comes out on October the 13th, and there will be evangelical Christians and the sort of Christian right, so-called, who will be, "Oh my God, this film is showing a young girl eating pages of the Bible, going in in that shot, for instance, in the church." It's not really that scary or shocking or anything, is it? It's more like, what the hell's going off? You know, why is this? It could almost be like a deleted scene from the film that they've just left in. And it is, the film's coming in at 2 hours, and I'm thinking, we'll probably see it and think they could have cut 20 minutes out of that. But she's clearly covered in what looks like wine. Has she been drinking the wine or something? Like, you've got to have some kind of rational understanding of her behavior. Otherwise, if everything is just immediately they're possessed by the devil, that's just every other crap Exorcist rip-off movie, like the Pope's Exorcist or whatever. And even the Conjuring films, dare I say it. And I'm sorry to Voltaire, because I know he loves them, but, you know. Yeah, the test screenings, I think they may have recut it a bit since then. I heard that there was basically one test screening, and people said it was slow and not really very scary, but one good jump scare, which is, you see, it could easily just happen upon an audience who generally are not interested in seeing The Exorcist Believer. But I think the overall response to the film before the Oppenheimer, the trailer coming on that is quite a good tactic for promoting it, because the people who like a lot of horror films nowadays, I don't even think that they're going to be that interested always in Exorcist Believer. It appeals more to a sort of, this is not like a joke or anything, but you'll get like an 80-year-old woman going to see The Exorcist Believer on her own, you can count on that. I'm not saying that in itself it sounds comical, but it's not intended that way. It's by the same thing, I think you'll get a few 17-year-old girls going to see it together. I mean, the start of the trailer is pretty explicitly aiming it at that kind of audience, young girls. So, I mean, maybe that sounds like I'm some kind of dimwit or whatever, but I think it's a kind of a no-brainer, really. No, the one with Jim Caviezel. I don't know about it really, but it's from what I've heard, I mean, if it's like you say, it's a right-wing Christian sort of evangelical take on pedo hunters, for instance, as you're saying, then it's not exactly going to be the most nuanced understanding of that kind of awful topic, and one that should be really treated with a lot of care. And like there's films like The Woodsman with Kevin Bacon, where he plays a paedophile guy, and it's as I remember it, pretty well done. Of course, these people would immediately they just, it's like as if they're kind of trapped in this sort of trauma from when they were 13 or something, and they're like immediately, well, that's an absolute disgrace. How can you have a film which has got Kevin Bacon in it and it makes you sympathetic with a paedophile? As if they're just looking at things in an incredibly black or white way, where, I mean, obviously, I don't think that film, as far as I remember it, in any way makes you sympathetic towards the character. But you do see the character as being just very weak and just very disturbed, obviously. Just there's something wrong with them, mentally, deep down. And I think the reaction from these people, the evangelicals or whatever, is not actually that far in a way. The way in which they're so, to use, a kind of crappy term for it nowadays, triggered or made passionate because of what they think is in this kind of film, like The Woodsman or any other films that deal with paedophiles, etc. I mean, it's like as if they are so angered by some kind of feelings that they are scared of it themselves, that they want to demonize real paedophiles, etc., to the extent that it's kind of like they are the devil. Where did the reality of the situation is more like in the film, of course, Happiness, which has Laura Flynn Boyle. I'm pretty sure that is a film that Lynch would have enjoyed. Philip Seymour Hoffman, I can't remember the name of the actor who is the paedophile in it, but he's but yeah, that's pretty. It's a hard-hitting film, even at the same time as being almost comical in some strange way. So, they got excited that it did better than Indiana Jones. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily made more box office in total than Indiana Jones. It's just that it's got a much smaller budget. So, you know, like the latest Dead Reckoning Part 1 of Mission Impossible series is he's underperforming apparently. But I don't find that particularly surprising because, you know, it's so long into the franchise. And I mean, you know, part 1 of a film as well. I think people want a complete film to go and see. So, yeah, I think the Indiana Jones film is fine as far as Indiana Jones films are concerned. It's not particularly as an adult a take as it could have been with James Mangold, but I think overall it was a fairly good film. But very much designed to be seen in the cinemas, really. I don't know if people really want to see the Barbie trailer or not, actually, whether they're just saying it's a joke. So, okay, I'm on YouTube, but it's showing me like loads of ads for actual Barbie products. Blonde Ken doll with swim trunks. Yeah,
I remember that night so well. Going down the road for a drink or two. You looked to me and said those words, "You've got cheese on your chin." And that's when I knew we'd never be friends again. Friends again. Just thought I'd give you some possible lyrics now for Flames of the Lizard Birds, inspired by this recent experience we've had to struggle through. All I can say to you, Kevin, is, you know, this is not what I wanted to happen, and we need to go on Jerry Springer to slug this one out. I don't know what Cameron's thinking, but hey, lyrics thrown your way for you to just think about using with your band. Yeah, all I want to say to you is sorry. I didn't know that my words would hurt so bad. So jump in my pickup truck tonight. We're gonna go down to the bar, have a few drinks and knock 'em back with my buddies now. It's time to make it good. Time to make it good. It's time to make it good. Oh, yeah.
I hope you could hear that all right, and it wasn't just really distorting the microphone. That was a song I composed for Kevin Ball, whose band Flames of the Lizard Birds is a real band. Sorry if it was very loud, but we have had a bit of an online dramatic saga recently, where Kevin sent to me, you know, an image of Cameron where he was in his car and he was eating something with cheese. And I don't know, Cameron was just like amazed that Kevin could have captured it in the quick time that it was online and sent it to me and everything. And then Kevin watched a recent video where it was Josh Eisenstadt and Cameron, and at the end of the video, apparently Cameron says, "Are you going to kill me now in your living room?" to Josh. And I didn't watch the video to that point anyway. I've not watched the whole thing yet. But I mean, they are good videos, so I recommend people to watch them. But I think Cameron didn't quite understand that Kevin was actually a really big fan of these videos, and that's why he was talking to me about them. It's just that Kevin's comedy is maybe confused Cameron as to thinking that there's some kind of mockery going on, but that is honestly the last thing. It's not intentional in that sense. And it's quite strange as well to think that Cameron's now friends with Josh and has been to where he lives, and like 10 years ago or so, I mean, we were talking about the Reflections on Twin Peaks documentary, which is on, well, I don't know if I'd call it a documentary, but it's a sort of 25 minute production where it's got various Twin Peaks actors quite a way back in time now. And then there's these clips of like Michael J. Anderson, and he's sitting there, and then there's just Josh Eisenstadt sat next to him, uncredited. It doesn't come up, like on the screen, Josh Eisenstadt. I'm not, well, it might do. It might say Twin Peaks superfan or something like that. And I would always quote to Cameron, Josh's line of, I just liked Firewalk With Me so much because it had so many extra layers of mystery, or so many layers of, and I've got to get that clip. That's because I was of the mind, particularly back then, that Firewalk With Me didn't have many more layers of mystery. In fact, it was more of a sort of, Leyland did this stuff. If you want to see Bob as being real, then that's up to you. But at the same time, Bob is definitely a demonic, spectral being created by Leyland when he gets a bit horny, basically. Yeah, so something like that. And I don't see that as being like many layers of mystery. Sorry if it was too loud. I put the phone too close to the mic. I hope I've not blown the mic out now. Okay, let's watch Barbie, the trailer. Just to remind ourselves of this excellent film coming out, or out now. It's been out since last week, and it's done very well at the box office, I will say. I do think its success has helped Oppenheimer as well in the promotion they've done for both of them, even offering like reduced tickets for people who go and see both of them at some chains, I think, or even independent cinemas. I think it just creates the right kind of interest level anyway, because both films are obviously, contrasting. Oh my God, how do I get myself off the screen? What am I doing? There we go. Let's get Barbie and Ken on, shall we?
Hey, Barbie. Can I come to your house tonight?
Sure. I don't have anything big planned, just a giant blowout party with all the Barbies and planned choreography and a bespoke song. You should stop by.
So cool.
You can find me under the lights, diamonds under my eyes.
This is the best day ever.
It is the best day ever. So is yesterday, and so is tomorrow, and every day from now until forever. Do you guys ever think about dying?
When my heart breaks,
Some things have been happening that might be related.
when my world shakes.
Cold shower, falling off my roof, and my heels are on the ground. What do I have to do? You have to go to the real world.
You can go back to your regular life, or you can know the truth about the universe. The choice is now yours.
The first one, the high heel.
You have to want to know, okay? Do it again.
Closer I am to find. Closer I am to find.
I'm coming with you.
Okay.
Wow, this is the real world. What's going on? Why are these men looking at me?
Yeah, they're also staring at me.
Barbie in the real world. That's impossible.
If this got out, this could mean extremely weird things for our world. This would be catastrophic!
We haven't played with Barbie since we were like 5 years old. Oh.
No one rests until this doll is back in a box.
Even if nobody else sings along.
Humans only have one ending.
Get that Barbie!
Ideas live forever.
No, I won't let you do just one appendectomy.
But I'm a man.
But not a doctor.
Can I talk to a doctor?
You are talking to a doctor.
I need a clicky pen.
No.
A sharp thing.
No.
There he is. Doctor!
Somebody get security.
Is Barbie you still in doubt?
I don't know what happened at the end there. It seemed to be like Nicki Minaj just suddenly appeared. So yeah, if you want to put on a Devilman trailer for the final thing we look at tonight, possibly, then that's fine by me. This is a manga thing, right? I think that the Barbie film is ideal for, you know, a summer audience and people who just want something which is a feel-good, well-written, fairly escapist kind of thing that's suitable for children as well as adults, really. So it's covering all bases, quite literally. But I mean, the ending is basically showing someone who's suffering mental illness going into a medical facility in a hospital. Just you can't just walk in there wearing what he's wearing, like kind of a cowboy outfit or something. So a similar thing, you know, to reminds me of the final episode of Twin Peaks: The Return, Part 18, really, in some ways, and also that Michael Cera is in it. That seems deliberate, shall we say, a bit of a nod to Lynch. So, and it, you know, it being released at the same time as Oppenheimer is an obvious nod to Part 8 of. But I've looked up the cast members of Oppenheimer, and Jack Parsons does not play any part in it. So looks like he's been written out of history. No Marjorie Green, his red-haired lover and sex magician, whatever they were up to. Sounds pretty exciting. They did sex magic and they opened a time-space rift that allowed Bob into our world. Something like that. That actually happened. Well, it's possible. That's all I'm saying. I don't know, you know. I don't really know about the truth of all of this, but all I'll say is maybe it's possible. Maybe Lynch's vision of things is the nearest thing we know to reality. That looked like shit, says Phantom Monkey Island. Like spelt backwards. That's obviously another reference to Twin Peaks. Yeah, it's a Netflix anime Devilman Crybaby as Exorcist 3 vibes. Okay. Well, I'll put it on then if that's the case. Keeping it relevant. So it came out in 2018. Yeah, it is an area really that I am willing to look into, manga. I'll just put on this brief trailer here, I think. Oh, not on Netflix. So the lady in red is about her. Well, I actually thought that you were talking about that film with Kelly LeBrock, is it? And Gene Wilder. And some music by Stevie Wonder, etc. But you're talking about the 80s classic by Krista Berg. I've never seen you looking so lovely as you do tonight. It's actually, it's a well-made pop tune, so I don't think you should speak of it in such a, don't be heaping derision all over Krista Berg's biggest hit, because, it takes quite a lot to be able to write something that good. Many people have said that this is better than, that song is better than the entire back catalogues of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, but not the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys are actually superior. I agree with that. But it is a well-produced pop song. It's not necessarily going to be for everyone's taste, though, because it's one of those end of the night type things. Yeah, and when I say end of the night, I mean like a romantic type of thing, not like dogging or something, if that's what you're thinking of, Monkey Island. Not everyone's, into that kind of stuff, and let's keep it that way.
それは力の歴史だった。暴力の世界。弱さは死を意味し、強い者だけが生き残る。今、歴史がよみがえる。選べ、アキラ。お前が信じていいのは俺だけだ。俺は悪魔ではない。俺はデビルマンだ。
Well, yeah, obviously it is an animation, Monkey Island, but it was suggested by Phantom Cooper, so I think it looks interesting and very, visually stimulating. So I think some people have we have a bit of maybe a block where we see animation and we just immediately relate it back to childhood or something before we're allowed to see films. Or not allowed to see, but before basically adult films were on the menu, I mean, I can remember when I went to see the cinema presentation of the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I thought this is a proper film for adults. Which overall, I would say it is. Of all of the Indiana Jones films, it probably is easily the best. And secondary to that is the fact that it's not aimed at a sort of... it doesn't have any of the kid-friendly, so-called, or child-friendly aspects, which the later films tended to bring in a bit. Not as far as I can remember, anyway. There's no child sidekick. The first film does have a bunch of children who seem to be protective of Indy in a certain way, but it's not like they're major characters in the film coming in all the time, like Short Round did in Temple of Doom. But I think when Short Round was in Temple of Doom, that was about the best they could do with that kind of sidekick. And I suppose the third film got rid of that aspect from the film because of the fact that he had his, Jones's father in it, played by Sean Connery. So, and then, by the time, I have to beg to differ with Mandela Man, the Shia LaBeouf son and everything, Mutt. It was just too much for me. He didn't look anything like Indiana Jones, really. But not only that, it just, I don't know, it just seemed like he'd just come in from another film. It didn't fit together. The whole film just felt jumbled together, I suppose, which was almost a kind of strange fun when I originally saw it. But looking back on it now, it just really doesn't hold together. It's got just bits and pieces from everywhere. And John Hurt doing this crazy act, which seems to be almost coming from just an entirely different film, like some kind of 80s kids film or something. But, then it's got aliens in. It's just all over the place. So I think that was the main good aspect of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, in that it doesn't really try to just make itself into a kid-friendly film again, even though, yes, there is a bit of a young sidekick in it, but he's barely in the film, really. I had no problems whatsoever with him. I had no problems either with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She's not supposed to be a sympathetic character to any particular degree, the way she plays it or the way it's written. So I think the effect of that is that makes Indiana Jones more sympathetic. Because you've got to remember, in the first Indiana Jones film, that he himself is not particularly written as a majorly sympathetic hero or anything. James, do you like Possession? Well, I don't know. There's so many different ways in which I can interpret what you've written there, in the sense of, do I like being possessed, or are you asking about the 1981 film Possession? Sam Neill and Isabella Adjani. Yes, I will say to both of them, I do like it as a good way of spending your time. Yeah, I like it. I think particularly towards the end, I remember on seeing it properly some years back, I thought that the ending sequence and everything was incredibly Lynchian in certain moments, before Lynch, basically, before he went into that kind of strobe imagery and white faces. It was just something about it. Anyway, I will have to be heading off now into the trees. See you all very soon. And all the best from me. I appreciate all your comments today. It was a lot of fun.